Welcome to today's show. I'm visiting here today with Ed Kangeter. Ed, welcome.
Thank you for having me on. I'm excited to be on the show.
So, Ed, for the listeners here, you have a very successful business, but before we get into talking about what you're currently doing and your role in that, I'd like to roll back and discuss your path in life. How did you get to where you are today?
I had an interesting path. It was as a child of a military family. So I moved a lot when I was younger, and I lived in the Northeast down to Virginia, then Florida, Texas, and then out to California. And graduating high school, my father was very fond of the idea that I should go into the military. I had different ideas. So I went out and decided that I was going to get 3 jobs, to work 2 jobs, to work 1 job. And I ended up working in the fashion and apparel industry. And that was my real education. I got to travel the world, do a lot of different things, learned about building businesses. And it was really my education on life, if you might call it. And that set the foundation for what I do now.
So transition from the apparel industry, because you're not working in that today. How did you get into your existing industry now?
So I married and I started having children while I was in the apparel industry. And my wife's family had started a recycling company. And as you know, regulatory compliance in California is challenging, and operating an industrial business in California is challenging. It was located in Oakland, California, so just at the foot of the Bay Bridge for the listeners that are not familiar. And the area was starting to go through a gentrification. The property that we're on is very valuable. And basically the family wanted someone to come in and decide if the business could move forward or if it was better to sell the business and develop the land. And I was the one that everyone decided had the best attributes to try and take on that challenge. And I was traveling a lot for the fashion industry, and which wasn't conducive for raising 3 small children. So it was an opportunity to be home with the family.
It just sounded like a win-win situation. So,
it was.
So Ed, your current role, you're CEO of CAS.
Yes.
And tell me on the recycling. Give me an elevator pitch of what CAS does.
So CAS is unique in that we are recycling end-of-life products from society, specifically in ferrous and non-ferrous. So steel and aluminum and things of that nature, but we're vertically integrated, meaning that we are taking end-of-life products from retail type clients as well as industrial clients. And then we're preparing furnace-ready packages for the international market. And then separately for ourselves, we have vertical manufacturing where we're making aluminum bar to alloy specification to support industrial manufacturing, primarily now domestically here in the United States.
So what are some of the misconceptions about recycling industry?
I think most people think of it as a junkyard, and most people think that you're handling waste, which is not correct. What you're doing is you're mining. It's one of the largest mining operations, if not the largest in the world. And instead of going to iron ore in the ground, you're mining society's obsolete products. And this is really important. And the value to society is that you're reducing the energy requirement to create the final product. So when you manufacture aluminum like we do here at CAS, you're saving 90% of the energy and the impact on society and the planet. And most people, especially if you've been to a recycling facility or been around one, they're loud, they're industrial operations, and it's really easy to focus on the negative impacts versus all of the positive, which far outweigh the negative impacts.
Okay, this is a question I'm going to toss into you, but when I was younger, I used to go collect beer cans, aluminum cans, and then bring them down to recycling center. Okay. Do you have relationships with those centers based on what you do, or are you more on the industrial side?
So we historically have done a little bit of that to really help out existing clients that have some of that mix. And it's not something we focus on. It's a very specific part of the industry. With COVID, we were fortunate that we were able to stay open during the entire pandemic. And where we're located is Oakland, which is in Alameda County, the greater Bay Area. And our county and our region was the first to go into lockdown. And one of the requests from the employees wanted to stay open, but actually one of the things that they brought to our attention is they weren't comfortable handling the recyclable cans because it's not an industrial product and people are touching their face and mouths with it. So we've stopped receiving those actually. That is how most people think about our industry.
So has COVID actually made you stronger?
As a company? I think 100%. I think we've improved more in 2020 than we had the past 5 years.
So what are some of the things that you did to protect the business model and advance the business during the last 12 months?
First was lead by example. I made a commitment to be here. Our company is open to clients in the public 6 days a week, but we run 24/7 because of the nature. So for all of 2020, once the pandemic started, I worked 6 days a week. And I felt like if I was going to ask our staff to be here, that I had to be here and lead by example. But really what we did as a team is we went in and we reevaluated all of the metrics of the business and really tried to understand where we were bringing value. And then also at the same time, charge for that value proposition to help create a profitable business so that you could reinvest in the most important asset that we have, which is human capital, and that we could put ourselves in a position to really think forward. So the pandemic gave me and our team the opportunity to slow down for a minute and take some time to have perspective. And we really thought a lot about how we can change our operations. So we're in the process of preparing to build a new facility now, which will be fully automated for the manufacturing of aluminum. And that will, I believe it will be the most advanced secondary manufacturing facility in the world.
So we've seen some migrations of businesses out of California. Are you currently located primarily here, or do you have plans to do future expansions to other areas in the United States?
We own property in Northern and Southern California and have a business model in both locations. We do have some land and operations that are in Northern Idaho, and we are looking at additional sites outside of California to expand our operation currently.
So, Ed, when you look into the future, do you see lots of optimism towards growth in the company?
Yes, significant opportunity.
And what would you say is the primary driver of growth right now?
I think the need for us as a society to transition to sustainable manufacturing. We can't just keep pulling resources out of the ground and think that it's going to last forever. And so our business model makes incredible sense. And as society and as we as an industry become more sophisticated in our understanding of the value of recycling, and sustainable manufacturing. I think that there'll be more support. I think that our industry is ripe for automation, AI. There's a lot of improvements that can be applied to this industry that are really in the infancy. And it has been applied in other industries, but it's just starting to come into our industry. And even with the electrification of process and the tools and equipment that we're able to apply to the industry, I mean, they're pretty simplistic not that long ago, and they're becoming very sophisticated now. And I think it's going to improve safety, efficiency, and bottom line profitability.
You know, it's interesting you mentioned AI coming into the recycling process into your centers. Can you elaborate a little bit more on that, of how you find efficient use of AI in the manufacturing process?
Sure. I'll give you an example of one that we've already implemented, which is all of our trucks now are outfitted with camera systems that have AI that is monitoring the driver. And so if the driver is talking on the phone, if the driver's eating, if the driver falls asleep, it will actually verbally communicate to the driver, and it will send a teachable moment to the driver and the management team for the transportation division. This is a big deal because, you know, our first responsibility every single day at CAS is to make sure that every person that works for the team goes home safely to their family. But we share that responsibility to the community that we live and work in, and the community being the community that we're driving through. So we have trucks all over Northern California. And as we grow our fleet of trucks, we're partnered with Kenworth. And as we grow that fleet and we bring new safety standards to the transportation division through AI, we get a better product. It improves also our bottom line profitability, because you're less likely to have an accident. You're more likely that if there is an event to have a more accurate depiction of what actually happened. And so it minimizes the potential of anyone getting hurt, and also the risk profile that you see with having these type of rolling assets out on the roads.
When you are doing the recycling, do you actually do some smelting for the metal to kind of put it back into a different form?
Great question. But we are unlike, and I actually don't know anyone else in the US, but certainly in California, that manufactures aluminum the way we do. We do not smelt. So meaning that we are using heat to melt down aluminum, but we're more like the organic hippies, farm to table. We're going out to the garden and we're picking the lettuce and everything we're going to put into our salad. But instead, we're going into the recycling production facility and we're picking the different alloys that we need to make. And we're not using chemicals or fluxes. So the majority, if not all of my competition in the domestic market of the United States, they're using chlorine and other really toxic gases to clean their metal in their process. We're able to not do that. And it makes what we do harder, and you have to use a higher grade of aluminum, but it allows us to have a much healthier process for our team. And it's actually a safer process for the community. So a chlorine tank, the kill rate on the circumference of a potential explosion is not a pretty thing. And so we made a conscious effort many, many years ago to develop a system that did not require that. And in addition to that, when we're making that type of product, we've worked with a lot of creative ideas and people. And so, for example, to my knowledge, we were the first secondary aluminum manufacturer in the country that used an external permanent magnet to move the molten metal inside. And it's aluminum, so it's not magnetic, but it's creating a magnetic field that's moving the metal inside of the furnace. And the reason that's important is you get a more homogeneous distribution of the elements in the alloy, and you're able to keep the temperature in the bath, so 40,000 pounds of molten metal, within 1 degree from the top to the bottom. And you don't have to superheat the top to get to the bottom because the metal is moving inside. And you're not opening the door to move the metal to the furnace mechanically because it's moving from the magnetic field. And what that does is it allows for a more efficient process, and also one that has less impurities in it. So you get a higher grade product. It costs less to make, and it's just good for the client and good for us. But it's a unique approach to making metal.
You know, in the course of my interviews over the years, I've run across a variety of businesses, and one business, say, had a group that was that had broke off from the government research center that had done a lot of experimentation with metal alloys. And one of the things that they were working on developing is adding carbon to the different metallic, because they found that there was greater resistance in the metals, and it was also much lighter. Do you venture into adding the various metals into the aluminum? Or are you a purist on as you put things together?
So I think traditionally I would describe us as more of a purist. I think that we're very interested in understanding the new applications of alloy composition and the development of new alloys. And under NDA, I can't mention client names, but we have worked with a client to develop a new alloy that streamlined the manufacturing process dramatically. And those type of developments are taking place right now. And they're going to drive bottom line efficiencies, and they're going to change the industries that are utilizing those alloys. And it's going to change the world, and it's actually changing the world around us right now. And it's advancing sustainability at a very high level, because it allows you to manufacture products in significantly more efficient manner that reduces the impacts negatively on the planet, as well as you gain properties in this process in the final product that gives you a better result. So carbon fiber, and there's lots of interesting things that are happening in this world and in this category, excuse me. And yeah, we're excited to be participating in that and see a lot more of it coming.
So Ed, when you're not working the 6 days a week, do you have hobbies and things that you enjoy?
Well, I have 3 children and a wife, so I have some home responsibilities that I get occasionally assigned. And yeah, I try to live a happy, balanced life. You know, some would say 6 days is not a balanced life, but you know, learning a new industry and trying to grow a business, especially an industrial business in California, requires that. I'm a big fan of dining out with friends and family. A huge sports fan. So I'm a big fan of the Warriors, local basketball team, I believe you're aware of, and had the good fortune to see up close and personal them win a lot of championships. We've seen a couple difficult moments in the last year or so, and looking forward to getting back onto the winning history that we've created recently. But yeah, spend time with family, friends, and participate in some sporting events when I get the opportunity.
All right, thank you. So reaching you, what's the best way for a person to reach out to Cass to inquire for more information on what you do?
So we're on LinkedIn, and that would probably LinkedIn and Instagram. And then as far as the company or reaching me, you know, I have an email address, and anyone that is interested in reaching me can reach me at edward@customalloy.com.